What we'd like to start discussing with the Haggadah is the Arba Banim, the four sons, one of the very, very well-known, if not favorite part of the Haggadah. I have a special interest. I know in my own family I was always the Rasha, for reasons that I'm not sure, but years of therapy have worked for me on that. But let's get started with discussing the four sons, beginning with the Baruch HaMakom. The Baruch HaMakom is the beginning, if you would say, an introduction to the Arba Banim, and we start with Baruch HaMakom. Now, interesting, Baruch HaMakom, Baruch Hu, blessed is God. One of God's names is Makom, blessed is He. Baruch Shenatan Torah La'mo Yisrael, blessed is He who gave the Torah to the nation of Israel. Baruch Hu, blessed is He. And then it continues on, Keneged Arba Abanim Dibra Torah, parallel to four children did the Torah speak, Echad Chacham, Echad Rasha, Echad Tam, Ve'echad She'eino Yodea Lish'ol, one who is wise, one who is wicked, one who is simple. We'll discuss later what simple means. Ve'echad, and one She'eino Yodea Lish'ol. So this is the introduction, as we mentioned, to the Arba Banim, and then the Haggadah will go on and start each one separately. First the Chacham, then the Rasha, the Tam, and finally the Eino Yodea Lish'ol. What I want to discuss first, though, very interesting, is this introduction, this Baruch HaMakom. Again, this first line, if you will, these three lines. What did they mean? And the first thing that comes to my attention is the fact that it used the word for God. When it wanted to bless God, it didn't say Baruch Hashem, Baruch Elokim. It used a very, not common term used, and that's the term HaMakom. That Baruch HaMakom, blessed is God, and here the term again used is Makom. Now, the word Makom in Hebrew, as we know, means a place, and what does it have to do with the name of God? Here we find that, again, like we mentioned, Makom is a place. The Gemara tells us that whenever we use this name for God, the name Makom, what we're referring to is the following attribute of God, and that is that Hu Mikomo Shel Ha'olam, that God, He is God, is the place of the world. Ve'ein Ha'olam Mikomo, but the world is not His place, which means what we're basically saying is that God is everywhere, right? That He is in the world, but the world does not hold Him. The omnipresence of God, also referring to the omnipotence of God. If He's everywhere, He's also all-powerful. Why this term is used for the beginning of the Arba Banim is really unclear. I really am not positively sure. Possibly, I was thinking maybe what the Haggadah is telling us is just like God is everywhere, God is also in everyone. So maybe coming back, what the Haggadah is telling us is that both the Chacham, or the Rasha, or the Tam, or as we'll have a little later on, the Eino Yodea Lish'ol, God is in all of them. Do not think that God only resides in the wise son, but God is also in the Rasha, also in the Tam, also in the Eino Lish'ol, in the wise, the wicked, the simple son, or the son who does not know how to ask. So perhaps that's why the term Baruch HaMakom is used here, again referring to that God is everywhere and God is in everyone. The next thing that comes to very, very interesting is that the Baruch here is said four times. Baruch HaMakom, Baruch Hu, Baruch Shenatan Torah La'mo Yisrael, Baruch Hu. Now if we look at that just a little differently, what we have is four times. Baruch, 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 blessed is God, 1, 2, 3, 4 times. Baruch Hu. Which is also very, very fascinating that we look at God being blessed 4 times, and that doesn't take a stretch of the imagination to realize that maybe these 4 Baruchs actually parallel the 4 sons that we're talking about. And that works well when you look at it this way, and you have the Chacham, Baruch HaMakom, possibly the Chacham, the wise man, is the wise son, is the child who sees God. Makom, as we mentioned, he sees God everywhere, as we mentioned before. That's why it's a Chacham. The next, Baruch Hu, is possibly the Rasha. The Rasha is God is distanced from him. Baruch Hu is, I guess you could say, a statement of unclarity. Hu, it's not saying what he is, doesn't describe God in any way, shape, or form. That would be the Rasha. The Tam, who says, Baruch Shenatan Torah Lamo Yisrael. He does describe God. God is the giver of the Torah. Maybe it will force us a little later on to reassess how we look at the Tam, because you see somehow here the Tam and the Chacham seem to be somewhat connected in the fact that they describe God somewhat. The Chacham saying Hamakom, God everywhere, and the Tam seeing God in the fact that he gave the Torah to Israel, maybe seeing God through the Torah. And then finally again, She'eino Yodea Lishol, who again says Baruch Hu, to him God is somewhat distant. So keep this in mind. We're going to come back to this a little later on and discuss the difference between these four as we look into the Chacham, Rasha, Tam, and Yodea Lishol. What we'll be looking at possibly is a connection, according to this little introduction, that the Chacham and the Tam somehow connect, and the Rasha and the Eineo Dea Lishol somehow connect in the fact that by both of them they simply use the term Baruch Hu. So we'll come back to that a little later on in the lesson about the Arba Banim and discuss them. And one thing again we see clearly here in the fact that the word Baruch is used four times, is the fact that we bless God for all of them, right? The Chacham, the Rasha, the Tam, Eineo Dea Lishol. In all of these, we're saying Baruch Hamakom, Baruch Hu. Possibly what we're saying here also is the idea we started with the term Hamakom, is that sometimes you don't only bless God for the great child, the great student, the perfect child. Maybe the lesson here is that every child is blessed. Every child, even maybe possibly even the Rasha, there is what to bless God for. And so whether your child is that Chacham, whether your child is that Rasha, whether the child is the Tam, or the Eineo Yodea Lishol, the wise son, wicked son, the simple son, or one who does not know how to ask, by all of them what the Torah is instructing you is, time after time, Baruch, here again Baruch, and again here Baruch, and again here Baruch. Each time there's what to bless God for. Each child has his place, and as we mentioned before, with the term Makam, God is found in all of them. Directioning them towards Avodat Hashem, towards service of God, of course, is the trick. In the same vein, there's something else I'd like to point out here, which is truly amazing in this introduction. We find in the introduction that when we enumerate the four sons, the Baal Haggadah tells us that the children are Echad Chacham, Echad Rasha, Echad Tam, Echad She'eino Yodea Lishol. One is the wise, one is the wicked, one is the simple, and one is the child who does not know how to ask. Now, the Baal Haggadah could have just said there are four sons, and it just could have listed them, Chacham, Rasha, Tam, and Eineo Yodea Lishol, the wise, the wicked, etc. Why say one is the wise, one is the wicked, one is the simple, and one is the child who does not know how to ask? Why repeat the word one four times? And perhaps this is the exact same idea, that it's coming to point out that the four sons are all included in the Torah, because God is whole, He is one. As we said before, He's that Makom, Hu Makamo Shalolam. He's everywhere, and He's in everyone. And therefore, the term Echad means one, and the term Echad also means whole. So what we're really saying is that HaKadosh Baruch Hu is Echad, as we find in the Shema. Shema Yisrael, Hashem Elokeinu, Hashem Echad. That we know that again that God is one. And therefore this is an idea that is coming through. Echad Chacham, the fact that the Torah speaks about the wise. Echad Rasha speaks about the wicked. Echad Tam speaks about the simple. Echad Eineo Yodea Lishol speaks about the child who does not know how to ask. The fact that the Torah relates to every child and every type of personality is the proof that the Torah is Echad and Hashem is Echad. A beautiful idea. What I'd like to talk about next in the next lesson is, where did we get these four sons from? Maybe there are 5 sons, maybe there are 6 sons. Why do we only mention 4 sons? The other personality types, Jews have a lot of children, so why only 4 sons? Go for more. Where did we get this idea of 4 sons? That we'll talk about, Bezrat Hashem, in the next lesson.